Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Doug Couch Show. This time we are talking about Book 7 in the Baudelaire in a series of unfortunate events, The Vile Village. So, in this book, Mr. Poe finds this program where it's a village that is supposed to be taking care of kids, or villages that are supposed to be taking care of kids. Well, so they choose the village of VFD because they basically they're basically like, well, maybe this is the same VFD that the Quagmires were talking about in their notebooks. Well, this chair is wet. Crap. Well, turns out that VFD actually stood for Village of Foul Deputies, which is a fancy word for bird. So they get there and they have to do all these chores for the village people. The village people are just like, they're lazy people, and they actually don't want the Baudelaires to live with any of them. So they choose Hector, which is the handyman, to take care of the orphans, the Baudelaires. So, and they have all these weird rules. Like, you can't use mechanical devices. You can't actually, one of the rules is you can't murder. But I mean, why would you want to murder somebody in the first place? Because you just, murder is not cool. So anyways, so they're still trying to figure out where the triplets are, Duncan and Isadora Quagmire. So the next day, after they get there, they get this rolled up piece of paper called a cutulet, which is a poem. And they get like 3 or 4 of these, and they're having to decipher what they mean. And so they finally figure out that the poems give them the clue where the triplets are, the Quagmires are. Plus, Count Olaf is there, of course. He's disguised as Detective Dupont, and he's like a French guy. He's a detective, and there's this new chief in town, Detective Luciana. She's a female. So Detective Dupont, ends up capturing the Baudelaires and putting them in jail because they say that Count Omar, which was what the Daily newspaper printed his name as, Count Omar, not Count Olaf, Count Omar. Now they're not going to be able to even find Count Olaf because they printed his name in the paper as Count Omar. So they're not even going to be able to, the police aren't even going to be able to find Count Olaf because they, like I said, they put his name in the paper as Count Omar. So it's just like, what do you expect us to do? And they're like, with all these mistakes going on, how are they gonna find Count Olaf? So, anyways, the Baudelaires get put in jail, and they know Detective Dupont is Count Olaf in disguise, which I'm pretty sure by now we all do, because every time that we see somebody new in these books or whatever, it's usually Count Olaf in disguise. So you pretty much know if there's somebody new or somebody somewhere in the town, it's gonna be Count Olaf. So anyways, they're going to burn the Baudelaires at the stake in this town. They're gonna burn kids at a stake. Like, what is this? 1900s something or other, where they used to do that shit to people, and literally, this is I mean, maybe I'm thinking too deep in it, but these are kids. These are kids, yo. You're really gonna burn kids at a fucking stake? Seriously? I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe I'm thinking too much into it. But anyway, so Detective Dupont captures them and he puts them in jail, and he's like, well, one of you is gonna make an escape and the other two of you are gonna two of you are gonna get burned at the stake. So you gotta make your decision on which one of you is gonna get burned at the stake. And they're like, nah, we ain't getting burned at the stake. We're gonna bust out this thing. And so they start using a bench as a battering ram to break down parts of the jail. So they end up breaking out of jail, and by this time they figured out where the Quagmire triplets are. They're in the fountain. They're in the fountain of the village. So they open up the fountain and the Quagmires come out of there. Now, how do they open up the fountain, you say? Well, there was part of the poem, "The eye will see." And so basically, Sunny managed to get a hold of the beak of the fountain with her teeth, and she ended up hitting the eye, and she was almost gonna fall, but she depressed the eye, which was a button, and the beak of the fountain opened. So the Quagmires make their escape from the fountain, and it turns out that Dupont had captured them and put them in there so he could hunt down the Baudelaire orphans and see what was going on there. So they get out, and so then the townspeople are still hell bent on burning these kids at the stake. In my opinion, that's a little bit too violent for a kid's book, but either way, I mean, but so then Hector comes along in his mobile air home, and the townspeople couldn't believe it that the guy who was their handyman, was using mechanical devices, because that's another one of their rules. No mechanical devices. So the Baudelaires are climbing the ladder to almost escape from the village of foul deputies, and Duncan and Isadora are there. They're in the balloon with Hector. So what happens to the Baudelaires? Do they escape from Count Olaf, aka Detective Dubois' clutches? Or what happens? I don't know. You're gonna have to read the book to find out, man. I hope y'all have enjoyed this video. Like I've said before, if you like what you see on the channel, subscribe and turn on all notifications. So you don't miss a video from me. Plus, if you like what you see and you think other people might like it, share the videos on Facebook, Twitter, and things of that nature, man. Like I said, subscribe for more content. Make sure you turn on all the notifications. And that's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out. Peace.